Witness of the Night was what the icon of St. John of the Cross was called by the Discalced Carmelite nuns at the Byzantine Melkite convent of the Harissa Carmel in Lebanon. They had requested it from the Discalced Carmelite general, Felipe Sainz de Baranda, in order to offer it to the convent of Segovia, where the saint's mortal remains are kept, on the occasion of the 4th centennial of his death. This icon, the fruit of prayer and contemplation, represents the figure and spirituality of St. John of the Cross from the perspective of the contemplative and iconographic theology of Eastern Christianity. The saint's face, inspired by certain ancient portraits, such as the one in Valladolid, is that of a man transfigured by love, transformed by divine grace, by the action of the Holy Spirit that floats over the mountain peak. The Spirit is also present in the living flame of love in the saint's chest. The flame is the central theological and graphic symbol of the icon. Christ offers John the sign of the cross. All of this is reminiscent of the vision that the saint had in Segovia when the Lord spoke to him from the painting. John, what reward do you seek? To suffer and be scorned for you. In her hands, the Virgin is carrying the habit or scapular of the Carmen. She is dressed from head to toe in royal purple, a sign of the purity and holiness of her life, always driven by the Holy Spirit, as St. John of the Cross himself expressed it. Some small bells in the towers of the church announce to us the death of St. John of the Cross. When the bells of the convent at Ubeda called the friars to the choir, Friar John was going to heaven to sing matins. The icon is surrounded by 25 miniatures, which illustrate the doctrine of the transformation of the soul through the explication of the Spiritual Canticle of St. John of the Cross, and summarize 40 of its stanzas. We will follow the paths of the soul bride and the Christ-beloved bridegroom, the central figures in the canticle. The bride is wearing the colors that John of the Cross assigned to the soul in the dark night: the white of faith, the green of hope, and the red of love. This red color will gradually change into purple to reflect the transformation in the beloved, the color of the glory, the same one that the bridegroom is wearing.
Where have you hidden, beloved, and left me moaning? You fled like the stag after wounding me. I went out, calling you, but you were gone. Shepherds, you who go up through the sheepfolds to the hill, if by chance you see him I love most, tell him I am sick, I suffer, and I die.
The soul is looking for the bridegroom, who has fled like a deer and is hidden from her sight. Her outstretched hand, reaching up, reveals the tension and her desire to find him, while her left hand expresses her sorrow.
Seeking my love, I will head for the mountains and for watersides. I will not gather flowers, nor fear wild beasts. I will go beyond strong men and frontiers.
Along the way, the soul must fight three enemies: the devil, the world, and the flesh, symbolized by the serpent coiled up in the dry tree of paradise, the fortress, and the borders. The soul hovers, having forgotten herself and everything else.
O woods and thickets, planted by the hand of my beloved! O green meadow, coated, bright with flowers, tell me, has he passed by you? Pouring out 1,000 graces, he passed these groves in haste, and having looked at them with his image alone, clothed them in beauty.
The soul can read in the creation, as in an open book, the wonders of God's wisdom and power. And so she contemplates the world that Christ has covered with beauty and has raised to glory.
Ah, who has the power to heal me? Now wholly surrender yourself. Do not send me any more messengers. They cannot tell me what I must hear. All who are free, tell me 1,000 graceful things of you. All wound me more and leave me dying of, I don't know what, behind their stammering. How do you endure, O life, not living where you live, and being brought near death by the arrows you receive from that which you conceive of your beloved?
Neither the creatures nor the messenger can satisfy the soul's desire to find the beloved. For that reason, in her meditation, she asks that he himself bring her into the mystery that appears in bright blue in the upper corner.
Why, since you wounded this heart, don't you heal it? And why, since you stole it from me, do you leave it so and fail to carry off what you have stolen? Extinguish these miseries, since no one else can stamp them out. And may my eyes behold you, because you are their light, and I would open them to you alone. Reveal your presence, and may the vision of your beauty be my death. For the sickness of love is not cured, except by your very presence and image.
There is no remedy for the suffering of love, but personal and direct communion. The soul, like the apostles on Mount Tabor, cannot bear the light of the glory, and yet she longs to be transfigured in the Beloved.
O spring-like crystal, if only on your silvered-over faces you would suddenly form the eyes I have desired, which I bear sketched deep within my heart.
The image of Christ in the soul is not the work of human hands. It is faith that illustrates on earth the mysteries of the Beloved, until the time comes to see the glory face to face. The soul asks faith to reveal clearly to her those same truths of the mystery that she glimpses.
Withdraw them, Beloved. I am taking flight.
Return, dove. The wounded stag is in sight on the hill, cooled by the breeze of your flight.
The soul flies. Man cannot find God who is hidden with his talent or his ingeniousness, but rather through love. He is the bridegroom who has come to find her.
My beloved, the mountains and lonely wooded valleys, strange islands and resounding rivers, the whistling of love-stirring breezes, the tranquil night at the time of the rising dawn, silent music, sounding solitude, the supper that refreshes and deepens love.
Here the soul sings. When she meets the bridegroom, she finds everything she desired and more than she can express. The silent music, the resounding solitude, the dinner that delights and conquers the heart.
Catch us the foxes, for our vineyard is now in flower, while we fashion a cone of roses intricate as the pines, and let no one appear on the hill.
The soul asks the angels to prevent the foxes from entering the vineyard and so keep chaos out. Meanwhile, she makes a lovely bunch of flowers to offer the Beloved.
Be still, deadening north wind. South wind, come, you that waken love. Breathe through my garden. Let its fragrance flow, and the Beloved will feed amid the flowers.
She now addresses her prayer to the Spirit, asking it to purify and silence the turmoils of passion, and to prepare the home to welcome Christ.
You girls of Judea, while among flowers and roses the amber spreads its perfume, stay away there on the outskirts. Do not so much as seek to touch our thresholds. Hide yourself, my love. Turn your face toward the mountains and do not speak. But look at those companions going with her through strange islands.
Located in a high place from which to contemplate things, the soul fights the uncontrolled movements of her senses and fixes her attention on the Beloved, whose sight loves and grants favors.
Swift-winged birds, lions, stags, and leaping roes, mountains, lowlands, and riverbanks, waters, winds, and ardors, watching fears of night. By the pleasant lyres and the siren song, I conjure you to cease your anger and not touch the wall, that the bride may sleep in deeper peace.
After this tribulation, it is the Beloved Christ who imposes order from on high, instilling peace in the powers of the soul, in the birds of the imagination, in the lions of irritable movements, in the deer of the senses, in the waters, riverbanks, winds, and fires of human passion. The soul sleeps safely, ignoring the deceitful call of the sirens and the vain praise of the liars. The bride has entered the sweet garden of her desire, and she rests in delight, laying her neck on the gentle arms of her beloved. Once the soul has been purified, and the purple curtain, the sign of divine love, has been drawn back, she enters the beloved's garden. This is the beginning of the transformation. Her mantle is already purple. She lays her head on the beloved, who blesses her with his right hand, covering it with his left hand, which holds the roll with the secrets of the word.
Beneath the apple tree, there I took you for my own. There I offered you my hand and restored you, where your mother was corrupted.
Eve, the face in the cave, was deceived by the serpent. Now on the tree of life of the cross, the church is redeemed and married. Bending down lovingly, Christ rescues the soul from the abyss and pulls her out of death with his hand. This is how the soul remembers the mystery of redemption.
Our bed is in flower, bound round with linking dens of lions, hung with purple, built up in peace, and crowned with 1,000 shields of gold.
The flowery bed of the wedding of Christ and the soul is like the sepulchre of Christ's resurrection. Purification and death precede life. An angel watches over the empty tomb and the white sheet. The bride, dressed in purple, walks joyfully with a glass of perfume in her hand. She is resolute with the peace of the reborn, with the strength of the lion in the cave, and beautiful and bold as the colors of the shields along the path.
Following your footprints, maidens run along the way. The touch of a spark, the spiced wine, cause flowings in them from the balsam of God.
Following in the footsteps of the beloved, the bride is at the feet of Christ, the Master and King. There, too, is the Virgin of Virgins, Jesus' first disciple. The soul's face reflects the joy of those who follow Christ with the glow of love, and the chalice of spiced wine that the angels bear in their hands.
In the inner wine cellar, I drank of my beloved, and when I went abroad through all this valley, I no longer knew anything and lost the herd that I was following. There he gave me his breast. There he taught me a sweet and living knowledge, and I gave myself to him, keeping nothing back. There I promised to be his bride. Now I occupy my soul and all my energy in his service. I no longer tend the herd, nor have I any other work, now that my every act is love.
In the intimate communion of life, in the inner sanctum of the Eucharist, which is reached by climbing the 7 steps or degrees of love, the bride receives the communion chalice from the hands of Christ. As she leaves the church, she looks back, drawn by the experience that has transformed her. Now she will walk through the world willing to serve only her beloved, with the tallis that symbolizes her complete devotion to the worship of the divine.
If, then, I am no longer seen or found on the common, you will say that I am lost, that, stricken by love, I lost myself and was found.
Having forgotten herself and the world, raised to the highest, her eyes only on God, the bride's duties are exclusively to serve the beloved in the ministry and in contemplation, far from the din of the square where a child is playing and where people devote themselves to leisure. Service to the church is not measured in its quantity, but in the quality of its love.
With flowers and emeralds chosen on cool mornings, we shall weave garlands flowering in your love, and bound with one hair of mine. You considered that one hair fluttering at my neck. You gazed at it upon my neck, and it captivated you, and one of my eyes wounded you. When you looked at me, your eyes imprinted your grace in me. For this you loved me ardently, and thus my eyes deserved to adore what they beheld in you. Do not despise me, for if before you found me dark, now, truly, you can look at me, since you have looked and left in me grace and beauty.
Like Mary Magdalene or Mary of Bethany, the bride sets down the alabaster flask at Jesus' feet. Her hair blowing in the wind and looking fixedly at Christ, she weaves a garland for the beloved. With the intensity of his gaze, the Master bestows grace and beauty on the dark face of the bride, who takes the emerald in her hands, the symbol of all her gifts.
The small white dove has returned to the ark with an olive branch. And now the turtle dove has found its longed-for mate by the green river banks. She lived in solitude, and now in solitude has built her nest. And in solitude he guides her, he alone, who also bears in solitude the wound of love.
Here the soul wanders along the green river, like a dove that announces with an olive branch that the flood is ended and plenty reigns. She leans on the staff, which is a cross, and looks at Christ, who draws her to him with the rays of his light. Lost in God, like the dove that builds its nest in the beloved's shadow, she lives only for love and walks in hope, moved by the Spirit.
Let us rejoice, beloved, and let us go forth to behold ourselves in your beauty, to the mountain and to the hill, to where the pure water flows, and further, deep into the thicket. And then we will go on to the high caverns in the rock that are so well concealed. There we shall enter and taste the fresh juice of the pomegranates.
Transformed and made similar to the bridegroom in her dress, her gestures, and her expression, the soul wants to explore the dense mysteries of God's wisdom, represented by the mountain and the spring on the hill. The bridegroom invites her into the caves of the boundless mysteries of her humanity, into the greatest wisdom, which is the knowledge and experience of the cross.
There you will show me what my soul has been seeking, and then you will give me, you, my life, will give me there what you gave me on that other day.
Under the watchful eyes of the Trinity, evoked by the three angels that appeared to Abraham at the oaks of Mamre, the union of the bride and bridegroom is consummated.
The breathing of the air, the song of the sweet nightingale, the grove and its living beauty in the serene night, with a flame that is consuming and painless.
The plenitude of the divine life is the communion with the Trinity. Christ lays his loving hand on her, and the abundance of the Spirit contributes to the flow of Trinitary love, whose origin is the Father. The nightingale sings in the white almond tree and announces the eternal spring, while the bush burns without consuming itself, which is a symbol of eternity.
No one looked at her, nor did Aminadab appear. The siege was still, and the cavalry, at the sight of the waters, descended.
Christ holds the soul in his arms like a little girl to indicate the final destination, the glorious life and the resurrection of the flesh. The seraph covering his face with his wings expresses the heavenly being's joy. Two peacocks symbolize eternity. One contemplates the mystery, while the other devours a serpent, the definitive victory over evil. The honeycomb of cupulas and the chalice are reminiscent of the spiritual couple awaiting the joy in the triumphal church. O soul, created for these grandeurs and called to them, what are you doing? How are you spending your time? Your aims are base, and your possessions miseries. And there is the synthesis of all this: the Holy Spirit, the gospel, the throne, the altar, and the cloak of charity, dignity and the Christian calling. The Spirit and the bride evoke the definitive realization of the promises. Come, Lord Jesus.